Heilung is a trio consisting of Kai Uwe Faust, Christopher Yule, and Maria Franz, starting life as an unnamed collaboration between Yule and Faust, who met at a Viking reenactment in Copenhagen. The two had struck a deal that Christopher would allow Kai use of his studio, Lava, in order to record his poetry, in exchange for tattoos, as prior to this, Kai had worked as a tattoo artist. Christopher was a member of several other projects, including Songleikr and Euzen, both of which feature his wife Maria, who is the third member of the group as we know them today. Yule was born to a pagan priest in Copenhagen, and was exposed to pre-Christian religion and culture long before either Faust or Franz, although all three share a deep love of history going back to their childhoods. Maria would become interested in the graves of the royals in her home country of Norway, and Kai read many historical texts during his own childhood in Germany, where he was forbidden to watch TV, but encouraged to read as much as he could. It was amazing growing up there, because me and my sister used the national park there as a playground from when I was small. I would ski down the grave mounds that were there, where kings and queens were buried. The winds of history blow through the park so loudly that it's impossible not to walk there and feel something of the pre-age. When I got older, I started to feel the need for saying thanks. I started making my own little rituals, which I had at very specific spots, and I needed to pick 3 different things that I saw on my path, and this was long before I knew anything about nature, religions, or anything. Kai would say in an interview with Revolver, "One of my earliest childhood memories is reading a book called The Last Secrets of Our Planet. It contained all these unsolved archaeological mysteries and pictures of graves and everything. This was before I could even read. I can't define it, but I had a huge fascination with it. My grandfather had a book of Greek mythology, which he shouldn't have had as a good Christian, and when I read that at a very small age, it also fascinated me." Maria recalled in the same interview, "As a teenager, I believed I was the ugliest person on the planet, and that destroyed me for a long time. I didn't feel like I could connect to people around me, but everything changed when I was around 11 and found the Viking reenactment in my hometown. I figured out I could play a drum, I could shoot a bow and arrow, I could make clothes. I felt empowered by that. You make friends and sit around the bonfire with people 10 years older than you, exchanging life stories. That's a beautiful place to grow up, and that saved me. Even today, I've had 3 wise old ladies look at my hand and say, 'Oh, I can see something happened when you were 11. I don't know how much I believe in that kind of stuff, but I think it's peculiar." Kai also stated that his restrictive upbringing led him to rebel against his parents and religion in his teenage years, and even gave way to a brief stint of Satanism. "I thought that very dominant thing in me and my parents' life, the Christianity, was all bullshit, and I was not shy to express it. In school, I had to go through a lot of tests, and there was always trouble, violence. I was kicking stuff, hitting people. They made me take an intelligence test, and it turned out the boy is over-average smart, but just doesn't want to participate in school. I dove into Satanism, but a little more than regular teenagers went. I did blood offerings. I tattooed an upside-down cross on myself at the age of 14. He would also say that a major turning point in his life was when he met a shaman who took him on a healing journey and also helped him cure his psoriasis. It was around this time that he discovered the art of Tibetan throat singing, which he was drawn to not only for the deep tones of the technique, but also the intricate whistling. I heard stuff like Sepultura and Slayer, and I could tell they were onto something. They sent me on a search for the primal source of what they triggered inside me. The Tibetan throat singers go so deep, deeper than any metal singer I've heard. At the same time, they also have this whistle. That's the sound I was looking for." It was through this love of history and ancient culture that he and Yule would come to their agreement, which Maria has stated would sometimes become very intense, and she would come home to find Kai screaming half naked in her garden while Christopher recorded.
Ended up using the whole piece, so but yeah, I came home one day or it was a period of time during the summer where I just came home and every day there was something new craziness going on. Kai screaming half naked in the garden, and up in the studio weird sounds was coming out, and I was really like, okay, shit, I never heard anything like it, and then I got sucked into it, and I've been loving it ever since.
There's a nature area outside my studio where we recorded the first album. Kai was standing there alone, and I was hiding in a bush to record him. At the same time, there were 2 teenage girls who happened to be riding past on a horse. From their point of view, they saw this guy standing on a hilltop screaming, and suddenly they started galloping the other way. I thought, okay, the world is going to love this. We managed to record the horse too. When we were making the sounds, it was like, this is never going to happen. You'd have to be crazy to listen to something like this. We were counting on one weird person somewhere. Maria's eventual addition to the group would provide a balance to Kai's harsher vocal style, adding a melodic female presence, for which she utilized her study of traditional Norwegian singing. The group's first album, Ofnir, was released in 2015 and features lyrics drawn and sourced from ancient artifacts, including swords, spear shafts, and amulets. In addition to music pieces, the album also features several poems, both as spoken word pieces and with instrumental backgrounds.
Bydd anmond, ond offerhirnet, fila fring.
Although it has now seen widespread acclaim, the album did not receive much attention until after the release of the group's second album, Lifa. In addition to being their second album, Lifa is also the group and Kai's first live performance in front of an audience. This performance would gain acclaim from critics and listeners alike, and currently has nearly 8 million views on YouTube. What puzzled me about the process is that we didn't actually plan anything in detail at all. We found ourselves in the practice room, and we had 2 days in the venue. We were like, okay, we're going live in 3 days. We have 2 days to get this show working. And we put up the track, and everything meshed together. On the second day, we had a costume test. And none of us really knew how the other people were going to look because we didn't plan it. We just said, put something on that makes you feel real or connected to yourself. Don't make something you think looks cool. Kai's outfit consists of teeth, animal hairs, and an ancient sword fragment. Yule's outfit is a reconstruction of a Viking-era garment, and Maria's dress contains horsehair from her old violin strings, as well as seashells which she collected from her childhood beach. Another major draw to the group are their instruments and equipment, nearly all of which are handcrafted. The instruments used in the Lifa performance include a clay rattle with human ashes, another rattle made of buffalo horn, ancient temple artifacts, a Hindu ritual bell, a silver cup from the Viking Age, a Ravana hatha, and drums made of deer, goat, and horse skin, the largest of which, named Blot, also contains a horse spine and is painted with human blood on its front. This performance would lead to many reaction videos, and even some fan pages on Facebook.
These sounds are so animalistic. I think that's what's wonderful and earthy about it. It's not human, it feels very animalistic, and these, like, that was literally like a goat noise, and then these notes are like, I don't know, like, have you heard monkeys in the jungle? They have these like whoop sort of sounds, or birds, or I don't know.
The group's lyrics add greatly to their mystique, as almost none of their pieces are in English or any other modern language. Many of the languages the pieces are performed in are ancient and dead tongues, including Germanic, ancient Icelandic, Anglo-Saxon, and ancient Norse. Many lyrics are pulled from ancient poems, scripts, runes, and even spells, including the Edda, the Egya, and the Merseburger Zabelsbräuche. The group provides no direct translation for their lyrics, as many of the languages are too ancient to be properly translated. They've also stated that they believe their music is to be felt rather than fully understood. It is in this way that they believe they can better portray the deeper meaning behind their work, to connect with the self, one's ancestors, and nature as a whole. We feel that there is a space where you can lose yourself in a trance-like state. We've also said Heilung's aim is to alter your state of mind. It's a magic thing that happens when you experience steady beats for a long time. You're just in the present and you forget everything else. You come out on the other side and hopefully you feel a sense of relief. Futha is the trio's third album, released in 2019, the very darkest day of the solar year, the 21st in the 12th month at 2100 hours. Futha serves as the counterpart to Ofnir, offering a feminine balance to the latter's brutal and masculine material. Whereas Kai would make a large presence in Ofnir, Maria takes center stage on Futha, and the album contains much more female vocal work, including a choir in some pieces. The album features songs of blessing and prayer, as well as the sounds of a rainy battlefield. When it comes to shamanism and related activities, it's all about balance. To create balance, to keep balance, to reinstall balance. When we made Ofnir, it really had the focus on tough male stuff like war dances. Futha is really the female energy. It's trying to put a light on the position of the woman, and of the energy of the woman before Christianity came in. It basically blacklisted all the herb knowledge, and what was lost in the new consciousness was the idea of women as powerful healing beings. It also ties into the purpose of the band, which is in the name itself. Heilung is healing in German. It's to give people the framework or the space to reconnect to their inner self, but also to the world around us. Included in a collector's edition box set of Futha was a booklet which explained more about the roots of the pieces, and also briefly describes the history behind the artifacts from which they are derived. Interesting to mention here is that the majority of full rune set inscriptions start with Futha, which also is the first 3 letters in all runic alphabets. It is considered that our forefathers saw magic potential in engraving the full rune line, but there is also great significance in the beginnings. As the theme of this piece describes the birth of a new world, the music arrangements is highly inspired by an actual birth situation. This is clearly visible towards the center, where the primal scream of the Adugan echoes a new beginning. Norupo is a poem known as the Norwegian rune poem. The poem was preserved in a 17th century copy of a now lost 13th century manuscript. Since we can't date the poem back later than the 13th century, we do not link it to the Vikings, as the continental Viking Age ends in 1066 AD, but we can still feel the vital echo of pagan lore and tradition in these old lines. Although the High One enjoys war, he also indulges in poetry. Othon therefore has a second part, where the White Mistress of Incantations recites the words that the High One gave to man, a spell sung under the shields to bless them and protect the warriors. The chorus by the male choir sings the spell connected to the helm of Ava Agashjalmur. The symbol was first published in the Galdra book from the 17th century, but mentioned already in the Poetic Edda Tafnismal. Vapnatak is an Old Norse word. Its meaning describes the ritual of raising the weapons in order to swear allegiance to the chieftain in times of battle, blessed by the Lord of War. In Old Norse mythology, the Lord of War is also the creator of the world. Svanrond is inspired by an early medieval collection of names of the Valkyr. In this poem, we recite all the Valkyr names known from multiple sources, and in order to fit their meter and rhyme, some new Kenningar for the Valkyr are added by Heilung. The majority of sounds in this piece are produced by actual ice. Ice was broken in pieces of different sizes, hit by ice, or smashed and grinded together. It produces the unique sounds that only nature itself can give. Elden Surin is innovation to fire, celebrating this life-giving and yet deadly element. The lyrics are following the Old Norse patterns, reciting words that are related to fire and wood. The atmospheric sound you hear in the beginning that later turns rhythmic is purely made out of actual fire. The low-end rhythmic elements added soon after are made from timber. In the beginning, spells to calm fire and inflammation are chanted, only to be followed by the mighty words of Wodan, healing blood and bone. The sounds of this piece might describe a raging painful sickness or accident, and the cry for help. The spell itself is recited in beautiful enchanting tones, and through repeating it, it unfolds its effect. In late 2019, Heilung would announce their first ever North American tour, which began on January 11th and was set to end in October, with the last performance being at REDUX in Denver, Colorado. However, due to the worldwide pandemic, they were forced to cancel most of these dates, with the show at REDUX being rescheduled to October of 2021. They would quickly make right this situation, however, as new US tour dates were announced in 2021, for which they would also recruit new warriors to join them on stage. In addition to their newly found overseas presence, the group has also been featured on TV shows and ads, including spots for Adidas and Game of Thrones, music for the show Vikings, and were also featured in an ad for the film The Northman. They have also been involved in the creation of the soundtrack for the video game Hellblade 2: Senua's Saga. The group would also announce that Kai would be designing and giving away personalized symbols to members of their social media audience, and in April of 2020, would release a music video for Norupo from this latest album. During the pandemic that took the world by storm, the group would write and record their fourth and latest album, Drif, which was released on August 19, 2022. In Heilung's own words, Drif means gathering, a throng of people, a horde, a crowd, a pack. In symbiosis with the album title, Drif contains a flock, a collection, a gathering, a collage of songs that, much like little flames, were seeking towards each other, to join, to bond, to create, and be greater together. In conjunction with the album, the group also released a music video for the song Anawana. Recently, Heilung provided an interview to the New York Times on Midgardsblot, the festival at which they played their final European tour date before departing on their North American tour. In addition to all this, the group regularly engages in philanthropic activities, such as helping to plant trees for every ticket sold at their US tour dates, and working with venues to allow reusable water bottles at their concerts. The group continues to capture the attention of fans worldwide, and bring attention to long-forgotten history and peoples through their art, connecting all of us through primal sound and movement, inspiring many through times when the world seemed bleak, and creating a fantastic mix of entertainment and education with their pieces, and bringing people together even as they were forced apart by a worldwide crisis. They endear people not only through their unique performance, but also their down-to-earth personalities and fraternal attitude towards their followers.
No, first of all, I don't want to consider anyone that likes us as fans. I consider them friends, brothers, and remember we are all brothers. That is what I want to say.